I show up and work every single day like I'm not in the position I'm in, like I'm not me. So that's the mindset I have. And
stop taking shortcuts. Stop trying to take the easy way out. Success is due to consistent performance day in and day out.
I put in the work to make it happen.
I am a man who still believes in respect, in honor, and in hard work. And my message is clear as day. No matter what the fight, no matter how tough the odds, you never give up. This is what I believe.
To another episode of Stu and the Nun. I want to welcome everybody here on this April 10th, 2018. And I'm hoping that, let me check all of our feeds. Yeah, it looks like we are rocking 5x5 here. And we'll see what happens. Hey, Toby, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, living the North American dream as always. Rocking some Enlisted 9. Got that E9, living that E9 life. Like to thank E9 for supporting us here on Stu and the Nun. It's a wonderful spring day. This is the best time in Texas, and I'm just fresh back from a trip of enjoying the splendor, the absolute splendor of Texas. So life is good. The other cool thing about this time of year is it's not blazing hot. It's nice and cool. Things are green. Blue bonnets are out. Wildflowers are out. And there's nothing better than a state that invests in its beauty and protects its beauty and conserves its beauty, especially its water. Shout out to the great water conservationist. And no, life is good, bro. Ready to talk about the things that I tuned out from for the last week.
Yeah, you have been tuned out for sure. And to the point that I thought something happened to my brother from another motherland. So, yeah. And good shout out to the water conservationists and a great one to Enlisted 9 Fight Company. Never shy away from chance of showing them guns. Hard work every day. In fact, that opening little clip of music you heard was actually from one of my gym workout playlists, and I just like the speech that's in it. So I thought, let me play that because, talks about hard work and never giving up and that kind of stuff. When I think about that, I think about you, Toby, and I think about our good friends like Dr. Mike Simpson and the folks at VO and Tim and Dave Bellavia and not.
Colton getting those abs on.
Yeah,
man,
exactly.
Colton was just down on a family vacation, something he hasn't done in a long time. And, man, I was like, that boy is a specimen. And that's living that E9 life.
I like the picture his wife just put up of him from his senior year in high school.
From childhood.
Yeah, that was classic.
His high school yearbook picture.
Yeah.
Always the shining example of maturity he is. Yep. Always the example.
That's it. And besides Enlisted 9, I am sporting the Mesquite Creek Outfitters hat. I broke that. I've been wearing VO for quite a while, and I saw my Mesquite Creek hat, and you got to show them guys some love. We need some fire and ice hats. We need some fire and ice hats.
They got some cool shirts, but we only got room for hats right now, so we're gonna have to work that out.
Yes. But
Fire and Ice Pizza Bar in Round Rock, Texas, always providing the delicious artisan pizza, the man-sized wings, and the craft cocktails.
Yep, that's it. And you notice I am sporting my Texas Come and Take It Enlisted 9 shirt, and I'm matching it, the black and white, with the black and white infidel flag behind me. So kind of carrying a theme, if you would. So
are you in support of our former host or of a radio show of past? Are you rocking this in support of CJ Grisham, or
Oh,
like,
my come and take it? No, that's my come don't tase me, bro shirt. That's a different one. That's
don't tase me, bro.
Don't tase me, bro. No, I'm just supporting this because I'm talking to you, my brother, and we got good people like Doug in the room, and we talk about great companies like VO, Veteran Outdoors, and Fire and Ice out all in Tejas, kind of my second home. So yeah, that's why. But and I just love this shirt because it's a great Enlisted 9 shirt. So, but yeah. So anyways, welcome everybody. Sorry I missed last week. Had a little thing called family time. We all need that. And we were on the breakness of spring last week here from my home front out of the northern studio. So was out hanging out with penguins and beluga whales and sea lions and all kind of great stuff. And unfortunately, I missed last week's show, Toby. I caught a little bit of it, though. It looks like you and Rusty had a pretty good show.
Yeah, Rusty's a special guy. You know who's also having a great spring break right now?
Who's
the Buffalo Sabres.
Hey, they set a record. Even in their worst, they set a record. And you may ask, why, what record are you speaking of, Troy? Yeah, they're the first team ever in the NHL to be in 31st place because we now have 31 teams in the NHL, and they are at the bottom, right? So kind of like playing hearts. You either go big or you go nil. They went nil.
They're holding a special place, but I think Jack Eichel's got the right attitude, and things need to get better, and it starts with him. Yeah. And I like it when people say that because that's a leader. A leader says that. So shout out to the Buffalo Sabres. Your hometown team, my hometown team. Also not the best season, but two of its all-time greats, the Sedin twins, retired. So an era has passed, and we'll look forward to what the new future has. And maybe next year we can watch playoff hockey. Maybe next year.
Yeah, well, I'll still watch it
with the Texas Stars, though.
Well, I don't know about that minor stuff, but I'll watch. Even though I would always go to Texas Stars game because minor actually is kind of fun too. I'll watch playoff hockey, dude. It's playoff hockey. I don't care who's playing. It could be a team I hate, like the Canucks or something. I'll still watch it. But
disrespect.
No, I don't hate them, dude. I can watch. I travel. I don't travel like I used to, but I travel a lot, and I always try to catch NHL and teams and games anywhere I go. But to tell you the nice thing about a team finishing dead last is tickets are cheap in the last few weeks of the season. Like they almost pay you to take them, so they don't have to walk over to the trash can. So you get some great seats, and it's still a great experience. And you know what? I got to give my team credit. They fought hard to the end. They didn't quit. They didn't give up. They didn't it's done. Let's just go half-assed out there. They pushed it all the way to the end, which that has some respect going for them. So let's see what they come back with next year. It's only a sport. It's not no one's living and dying. And enjoy playoff hockey no matter who it is. So nice way.
The social media has been a blur. Since I've been gone, and I came back today, and it seems like a lot of big things have happened in my 5-day hiatus from technology, and which I got to tell you is quite refreshing. What's not refreshing is when you finally get back in the signal and your phone's like, and you see triple digits on your messages, you see, quadruple digits on your emails.
It's just blowing up today, huh?
Voicemails in double digits. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah. But some interesting things have happened while I've been gone. But since we're talking about social media, we'll start with Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg testifying before Congress today. And seemed like he got some softballs. I watched some of the testimony and went back and, tried to decipher what was going on. He got some softballs, but then he came across a Texan, and a Texan, went straight to task and didn't hold back.
And that started it. I watched it until they pretty much cut from it because it went on for a couple hours. And I got to say, Toby, at first I was like, I don't care what Zuckerberg has to say, but it was like being covered by all the media outlets. So I thought, let me watch. And it was actually pretty good. And what was interesting about it as I reflected on it was, here's a guy who created and runs the biggest platform. There's really no other word for it, right? It really is it's not an application. It's a platform that allows 2 billion users not to be private, right? So it's kind of, there's these oxymoron kind of ironic things going on. So it's a platform which is open and exposed and caused billions of people around the world to be anything but private, right? Because it started with Facebook. Well, some would say MySpace. It really started with Facebook, and now, of course, they own Instagram, and there's Twitter, and there's this and that. So here's a guy who created this in his college dorm room, which he made sure he stated a few times today, and then it is now, and he's always been really private. He's married, all that stuff. He kind of keeps on the down low. He's not flashy. In fact, there were people wondering whether he was going to show up in a hoodie and jeans today, or as one congressman called them, dungarees. But he showed up in a suit, looking sharp. His guy right behind him with the matching tie and suit. It must have been light powder blue. Must have been the color of the Facebook day. And he really had to. It became interesting for me, because he opened up like we've never seen, short of the movie about him, which wasn't sanctioned, but it really showed a side that no one's ever seen, because he's been very, very private outside of like keynotes and TED Talks and stuff like that. And I was pulled in pretty, watching it, and up until Ted Cruz, they were softballs without a doubt, and it was like they were sucking up to him, like they're talking to a billionaire. But after Ted Cruz, and they took a break, it started getting a little bit tougher. I thought. Well, I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, so I didn't see a ton after him, but yeah, I mean, they opened, like, so the box kind of got opened, right? And you could tell that he had his talking points, and one of the things, like, he said while talking with Ted Cruz, before this is over, I got to get this done. I got to get this out. And so, you could tell everything was very well prepared. He knew that he was going to have to support his testimony, meaning, like, so for our listening audience that, don't know how the testifying before Congress typically goes, you actually, or the person testifying, the witness before Congress, actually prepares their testimony in advance. And by preparing, I mean that there is a written statement of your testimony that they see in advance, that you read into the microphone. And so you get the opportunity, when it's your time to testify, to read that statement. The procedure, I mean, isn't always this way, but this is the way that most people take. They read their prepared statement, and then the questions go from there. That way Congress is prepared, and there's no real bombshells, or they're better prepared in case there are bombshells. Senator Cruz went immediately to quoting his testimony and asking questions based on that prepared statement and that prepared testimony. I will say that I found it I found it refreshing that even though he's by far one of the richest young men in the history of mankind, and he is, kind of known to be this, like, standoffish, aloof type person in the reports and from the movie that was made about him and stuff. When speaking to the senators, like, he was respectful. He called them by their title, Mr., Sir, Ma'am, Senator, and that was kind of nice. It was professional. Like you said, his appearance was professional. His decorum was professional. He clearly wasn't going in there and, Jimmy Kimmeling it. He, like, went in there and, like, took it serious and spoke from the heart, I think, on some issues, and made sure that, you could tell that he was passionate about what he created. But during that moment with Ted Cruz, he fired back, and you could tell he went a little bit off script and was like, well, I think some other things are important. And he talked about meddling with the election. And It's like, okay, so now we know where you're at. And I also found it funny that he talked about meddling with the election when it was proven and people have been indicted on or kicked out of our country for using Facebook. So I was like, all right, bro, the irony was not lost.
Yeah, and
Clearly
even
not some of
talked
the
about
follow-on questions either.
Yeah, and he talked about how he even said, he didn't try to hide the gorilla in the room. He said, look, it's based in Silicon Valley with all these other companies. That's a very left-leaning area. He said, I'm concerned, whether he was being truthful and emphatic or not, I don't know. But he was like, look, I'm concerned about, because, Ted Cruz brought up, which I was so glad to hear him bring up Diamond and Silk, because I love them ladies. But, he brought up Diamond and Silk, them just being banned by Facebook. That happened over the weekend too, by the way. You may have missed that, Toby. They were told, not banned by Facebook, they were told they were unsafe for the community, and that caused such an uproar that Facebook has now turned that around and said, no, we were mistaken. So that actually happened over the last couple of days too. Ted Cruz brought that up, very topical, but talked about a number of conservative sites that have had issues with, and then brought up a number and even asked, have you MoveOn.org and this and that, have you shut these sites down and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's when the tough questions started.
I don't know.
Yeah.
His response was, I don't know. And it's like, he was very specific. Have you shut down the sites of any Democratic campaigns? And that's,
right. And I wouldn't expect them to know. I mean, he's hiring, who knows how many people they have. And I feel for the guy. I mean, he started it. It's his baby, but look, he's not the one-man show running it. He's got hiring 20,000 people just reviewing content.
What do you say? 21,000 security.
Yes.
Like
they're the ones that when you report something, they're reviewing it, and look, he can't keep an eye on all that stuff. He's a CEO. He's not the only programmer anymore. This isn't Silicon Valley like the show on HBO. He's not doing it all, and he's not going to know all that stuff. And Cruz, I think, was asking some unfair questions. Do you know if the 20,000 people are Republicans or Democrats?
Yeah, no, I mean that
was uncalled
that is
for.
an unfair question.
Labor laws say you can't even ask that kind of stuff, right? Of course.
Yeah, and it's unrealistic too, right? So there's the ethical question about it. There's the realistic aspect of it. And, and I thought Zuckerberg handled that pretty well.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I don't know. And we typically don't ask that when hiring, and I kind of felt it was a little tongue in cheek, like, hey, guy, let's keep it in the realm here.
Right. It's just like government employees, right? There's government employees that, just because you work for the government doesn't mean you love whoever's in office. We've seen that now, and it's been that way for every administration. These are employees that are there 20, 30 years. They're doing their job. They're not loyal to whoever happens to be the party in office. It would be the same. I'm sure there's a number of registered Republican, Trump voting Republicans or independents or whatever, or even Democrats at Facebook, as in every other company.
The bringing up of that specific case, where and I was trying to research it, and we just ran out of time. But it sounds like, that person is alleged that they lost their job because they were conservative in values, and they were outed as a conservative in the tech industry, and I've listened to Rogan, and on Rogan's podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience, he's had the gentleman that wrote the memo out in Google.
Yep.
And got fired for having a questioning opinion about what diversity actually is, and he's an engineer, and he wrote a piece, and it got kind of splayed out and edited and leaked out, and to the general public. It was an internal memo, and it was insinuating that women weren't as good at tech as men, and people like went off on this this horrible sexist tangent where he was actually like statistically supported in everything that he said, and the memo headlines and clickbait were going on more than actual reading of the memo. When I read the memo, I was like, oh, this is he said some very complimentary things. He said some very encouraging things. He wasn't like disparaging at all. But on Joe Rogan, he talked about how the tech industry, like they blacklist people that are conservative, and they try to out them, and they try to get them fired, and it's a very strong echo chamber. And I thought Zuckerberg made comment to how he was like hoping that it would not be an echo chamber, even though it was.
Right.
But we're also talking about a guy whose company and who he personally assisted in a presidential campaign.
Right. And he's allowed to have his own personal. Yeah,
Right.
He's allowed to have that. But short of that, you really don't know a lot. I mean, even that wasn't widely touted, but it was publicly known, right? He supported President Obama. And I guess I'm assuming Hillary Clinton. Oh my God, I almost called her president. She's, yeah, but that's fine. He can have that. That's the country we live in. And just because he hires people, trust me, there's people that I work with that I know are not one party or the other. It's very clear. That's fine. I don't agree with them. I don't have to. It's a job. It's not.
No, but the interesting thing is, and we haven't, I want to quote John Mayer, and for all the John Mayer fans out there, in his song "Change the World," he makes the statement, which he borrowed from somebody else. I don't know who he borrowed it from, so I'm only going to credit him with the information and with the quote. And it's like, when they own the information, they can change it all they want. And in that campaign, prior to, so it was that 2008, social media, was still on the, on the ascend. And like, that was such a strong movement tool to get out, get people engaged. It was far superior to like the previous attempts, like Rock the Vote by MTV or any of those programs. They mobilized younger voters, tremendously in that 2008 election, and that is, almost completely attributed to Facebook.
Right.
And their use of ad placement, their use of promotion of content, their use of like directing and controlling things. And I think, and this is where, a lot of people probably disagree with me, but I personally think that knowing that up front, I'm I've had a Facebook account, and I believe one of the channels we're broadcasting on right now is Facebook. When you agree to their use and terms, like you're agreeing to a private business. This is not the FCC. Facebook is not the FCC. So you're agreeing to their terms and things. Do I think it's fair that they censor people? No, but like, you agreed to use their platform.
They're a private business, right?
They're a private business. It boils down to like, if you want to force me to bake you a cake and I don't want to do it, I don't think you should get me sent to jail or, financially penalize me because I have a view and this is my private business. Now, they are publicly traded now, so there, there's a little bit of difference there. There's accountability with the board of directors and stuff. But up front, if like the values that are behind a company, it's kind of like Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A make a delicious chicken. I got to give a shout out, to the Argonne Force, that put out the song, God Changed My Life when he showed me Chick-fil-A. Shout out to Jordan Brown, goaltender, Texas ball hockey. And, it's a great, you got to watch it. You got to watch it.
I thought you were going to give a shout out to Chick-fil-A, because we'd love to have them as a sponsor too.
Yeah. I'll always give a shout out to Chick-fil-A. And one of the reasons I'll give a shout out to Chick-fil-A is because when we needed financial support to accomplish a very sensitive operation a few years ago that involved, taking a mutual friend of ours to a foreign land to go find some peace, Chick-fil-A were one of the organizations that financially stood behind us to make that possible.
Yeah.
And so I'll always support them because, they made sure that we had the resources to get the equipment that we needed that kept me alive. So I'm like always down for Chick-fil-A.
And to make a good chicken sandwich, especially the spicy one. But yeah.
And then number 2, extra pickles. If you don't like where they stand on their morals.
Yeah, if the CEO, if you don't like how his beliefs are, that's fine. Whatever. Buy a sandwich, don't buy a sandwich.
Don't shop there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is
isn't it the truth with all of Facebook? You don't like what you read, then don't read it. Don't look at that wall. Defriend somebody. Who cares? Like, right? But that's
but I think people put too much value in, they're like, okay, it is censorship, but let's also remind, like, this is not FCC. This is not like the airwaves. Like, you've agreed to use a service. And so, like, I know there's some people out there, friends of ours, they're like, Toby, like, they like suppress you. I know they suppress you. I know they suppress the show. Like, there's a reason why we haven't been over the certain number of likes, even though, like, we have 20, sometimes 20 times the downloads as that number of likes. And we could say, like our page on Facebook, like our page on Facebook. If you're watching us on Facebook and you're liking the video and you haven't liked the show page, go like the show page. We could say that a million times. It doesn't matter. We know that we're never going to go over 500. We've been sitting at 450 to 498 for 4 years. And, like, friends of ours have been like, oh, I liked your show. How come I don't like your show anymore?
Yeah, keeping us down.
So it's like, we know the deal. We know the deal. You should know going into it with open eyes. So
that's also why we broadcast on other outlets and not just Facebook, so you can catch us anywhere, right?
But that's part of freedom. Is freedom isn't just good for you; it's supposed to be good for everyone.
Right.
Just like when I see someone burning a flag, man, it pisses me off. But that's their right.
Yeah.
And I put a little effort into it. I served for that purpose. And so it's like, while I don't like it, I got to support it. And
I tell people all the time, man, if everyone thought the same, everybody have shaved heads and beards, right? We don't all think the same. We're allowed to have different opinions. If you want to think the same and be forced to think the same, go live in Russia or Cuba or any other communist nation, because that's what they're all about, right? So, yeah, you're right, though. I've been the same way, Toby. It's like, it burns me to the core to see someone desecrate a flag or do something and we both know why, because of the things we know what it stands for. But man, hey, guess what? That's the freedoms that we also fought for. That's the freedoms that our friends have died for, is so they can do that. So at the end of the day, that's it, right? So yeah, I'm with you. And they don't have to like Chick-fil-A, and they don't have to like Wendy's, or you don't have to eat at Core Life or eat salads or be a vegan. But don't be a vegan that shoots up places because you get mad because they cut your numbers. That's a whole different topic.
So while we're still talking social media, this is part 2. There has been a very strong narrative about shootings. It's been driven in. We've talked about it. We've talked about the difference between hardening schools and gun control and mass shootings almost ad nauseum. We've talked about it quite a bit on the show. And here we go. We have a strong case for workplace violence. But, the reason I say it's workplace violence, because she was a YouTuber and she went to YouTube. She wanted to be YouTube famous, and she was like trying to, make herself YouTube famous. And, like, it didn't work out. Now, I watched some of her videos.
There's something.
I can understand. I mean, like, yeah, you're a little suspect. Yeah. I mean, I imagine there's somebody watching our video right now going like, oh, those boys are a little suspect. But maybe we need to dance more.
Is it the flag behind me? Is that making you a suspect? I don't know. Or is it the shirts we're wearing? But yeah.
No.
She broke every narrative. She broke every stereotype of a like mass shooter, one. Like from gender to like everything. Right? She didn't fit anything, and it's been really quiet on the news.
That's what I say. Like, she broke every narrative, and it's just been crickets.
Yeah, dude, you haven't even heard about it. You haven't.
It happened where the majority of the stuff, this narrative is resonating from.
It's YouTube. Like the people there were like running out with cameras on, like that douche in Vegas, like
Blazarian.
yeah, running with their cameras on, like live tweet. Because as soon as it happened, honestly, I went to I usually go to Twitter right when something happens, because that's you can get the best, most current news. And I was seeing the clips. I just searched for it and started seeing the clips and everything. It was like, man, it was instant. Like before even news outlets got notified, it was already up there. Nothing. All the footage.
Crickets.
Yeah. All you heard about was the lady getting shot in the foot that went over to Carl's Jr. Carl's Jr. got a lot of good press. I'll just say that. They got a lot of press. But
which, probably do them half as good as their, commercials at the Super Bowl with like Paris Hilton and whoever the
right. But they're no Chick-fil-A.
But they ain't no Chick-fil-A.
No.
But
yeah, that is again, they didn't get near the press. If that, I mean, I'm going to be honest, and I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but let's call it like it is. If that would have been a rebel flag hat wearing conservative Trump t-shirt wearing guy, white with an AR that went in there, they wouldn't even show Zuckerberg today. It would have been
no, it'd still be on. Yeah,
exactly. That's just the way it is. I mean, that's the norm, I guess. We just got to, whether you like it or not, that's the way it is. So,
again, the irony of some of these situations is, the company that openly comes out and says that they're not going to even allow gun videos anymore because they don't want to be part of that. Now they had no cause in what happened. Like they have no culpability. She's clearly a deranged person. She was clearly disturbed. This is not how you settle business disputes. Imagine if like a client of mine, decided that they didn't, want to purchase something of mine anymore. And I like went over and put a gun to them and said, buy it.
Right.
That's called strong arming. that's called
a lot of different ways. No. And,
but like the sad part is like, look what it's doing to that landscape, because now like all these gun guys and gals that make these cool gun videos, and I say cool because I enjoy the review of a thing. They're going to like Pornhub.
They're going to Pornhub, yeah.
And it's like, like I'm not going there.
Right.
Like you just ruined that whole. I guess that was their intent. They cut that market. They cut it out.
What's also interesting is I mean, let me throw another oxymoron at you. YouTube, right? It's all about share. It's just like Facebook, all the rest of social media. It's all about being open and sharing and no boundaries and no walls and all that stuff. But while they were still searching for the shooter, the executive leadership of YouTube had put out a policy to all their employees not to talk to the media, not to share their videos, not to say anything. They didn't care about the legal ramifications. The shooter, she was dead, laying out there in the courtyard. So the medium outlet that allows Antifa and allows Al Qaeda to put up videos and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
The irony or the oxymoron is that they told their employees, while literally the cops were still going room to room, not to talk to the media. They weren't allowed to. They'd be fired. They couldn't show any videos. They couldn't talk about it. Do whatever. It's like but that's what you perpetuate. That's what you support. I mean, you are the platform for people to do that all the time. That's what the thing you allow riots to happen. You allow yourself to allow an excuse to be made of why a embassy outpost gets attacked. You name it, right? You allow hate groups on both sides or all sides to push their message. But then something happens like that, and you tell everyone to shut up and sit down. So, anyways, I want to kind of hit on that real quick.
No, so just checking in the chat. It looks like this is on the Facebook chat. It looks like a former soldier of yours, Javed.
No, Terp, man. We've had him on the show. That's Joe. That's Joed. That's
yeah. Oh, it's okay. I see it now.
Yeah.
He's
my Cheska. Hey, what's up, Joed?
Shout out to him. Hopefully he's enjoying America.
Yeah.
To answer your question, so what's going on with armed guards in schools? Is that a thing that's going to happen? So yes, it's going and has been happening. Yeah. And it's been happening in the form of school resource officers. It's something that happens nationwide. Most school districts have partner relationships with their local law enforcement agency to have police officers dedicated, sworn officers that are armed, dedicated to those facilities. In some situations, larger school districts.
Well, in the state of Ohio and Arizona and a few others, teachers are armed. They are armed, and they've been supporting that for a while. It's been in there long before any shooting happened. So it just depends on where you're at. I just want to make sure I got that in there.
Yeah, and some school districts have their own dedicated police force, and much like a lot of universities. So, Joey, like there's that answer.
Yeah.
And thanks for tuning in, man. It's great to see you.
I don't know. Joe
said I didn't recognize the key there.
So he said his flag's in the background. I'm assuming he means the Afghan flag and not the infidel flag, because I would be the infidel, and I know he's laughing when I say that. But yeah, so that's what he's talking about in the background. He is my Cheska. He'll always be my Cheska, and I know he's cussing me out right now for saying that to him too. But yeah, on to some other topics, Toby. So besides the Facebook thing that's been happening kind of all day, we got this thing in Syria going on, and it has been pretty well. We're waiting by the minute. It is last night. President Trump last night around 10 or 11 o'clock. You probably don't know if you know this or not. Got his entire cabinet together, and that's not usually a good thing, especially at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So he got his entire cabinet together, had an emergency meeting. Nikki Haley was at the UN today having emergency meetings, and the president put out last night, hey, you're going to have a decision in the next 24 hours or so on what we're going to do. And if we were to look back at precedents, around a year ago this time when Syria used chemical weapons on their own people, we launched Tomahawks within less than 3 days. So I don't know if it's going to be Tomahawks. It seems like you'd have to do something more because apparently that didn't work last time. I don't know if it's going to be boots on the ground, but man, that's such an ugly situation here, in my opinion, Toby. I'm going to hear yours in a second, but with the Russians, with Iranians, with Syrians, with Turks, Israel thrown in the mix, man, that is about as ugly as a hodgepodge of crap you could get into right there. But I don't know where he's going to go.
Well, sorry, getting asked questions.
Yes.
There's a couple of layers here, right? So we have layer number one, the immediate response to what we know and understand to be a direct violation of humanity. Chemical warfare, canister bombs, or whatever, delivery system that you use is by far the most atrocious thing, the most sinister, vile thing that you can do, because it just indiscriminately kills. It does not kill quickly. Unlike a nuclear detonation that kills instantly and is, devastating, a nerve agent or a chemical agent, this is a very slow, painful. Some survive, are scarred for life. Some die slowly. You hope that if you're going to be hit by it, you're hit by it as directly as possible, so it goes as quick as possible. There's nothing about this that is good for humanity. It violates it violates everything that a human should feel for another human being to do that.
Yeah.
So that's, layer number one. Half of layer number one, or sub bullet layer number one, is as an international community. If you're a member of the United Nations, you're a member of any of the larger organizations of countries that have banded together, which I believe Syria is, you agree to the convention that was in Geneva. And the Geneva Convention covers basically the rules of law, land warfare, right? And it covers what you can and can't do. It says that you can't use certain weapon types on individuals because it's, inhumane. You can't use a 50 cal on an individual troop. There's no need for it. You use a smaller caliber. You don't shoot parachutists while they're in the air, or pilots that are parachuting out of the air. They're defenseless at that moment, so you must take them prisoner. It covers how you treat your prisoners and what the expectations of that are. And it also covers the use of nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons. I say nuclear because there's a proliferation act that many nations have entered into that, there's been a sub-agency that helps police that up. But the use of biological and chemical weapons has been outlawed and frowned upon by the international community. And to be a member of that international community, you agree to those terms. Syria repeatedly, in probably, I want to say, the last 4 years, and correct me if I'm wrong, have repeatedly utilized chemical weapons on its own people. A year, well, it was over a year ago, I remember there being a hashtag about a certain city in Syria that everyone was like, hashtag the people. And, at the time, pre-President Trump, during the Obama administration, this was going on. And, there was the famous, I'm going to draw a line in the sand, or here's the red line. We still allow Syria to be a member of this community. So one, there needs to be some kind of action on that. Layer two, all the parties involved in this party. It is not a private party. It is a block party. And you got the angry uncle, you got the dirty neighbor, you got the wild kids down the street. It is a block party with everybody involved, and everybody's down for the get down. You're in an area with historical issues between Israel. You're in an area that's got strategic issues with Russia. You're in an area that has other implications from Iran.
Oh, it has financial issues with certain, access to certain, things that are important to countries.
Yeah, resource. I mean, it is a block party, and like I said, the dirty neighbor, the crazy uncle, the wild kids, they're all at this party. And so, yes, someone needs to pay for this. I'm not saying we need to assassinate Assad, but Assad absolutely needs to be held accountable.
Yeah.
And there's ways to hold people accountable, and I believe this would be a perfect opportunity to go in. We have the ability, we have the resources. We need somebody. We need a hero, and he can go in with a bunch of his SEAL team friends or his Delta Force friends, and they can scoop that dude up, deliver him to the Hague.
I don't know. Joed's got he's got a comment in the chat about how he thinks it should be handled. Just saying, that's an option.
Yeah,
don't hold back, brother. Don't hold back.
But I would like to see, right now, the world is, talking about what, how important it is to be a global community, how important it is to be this, and we need open borders, we need that. Well, how about let's see the international community,
right,
with its war crimes tribunal do something.
Right.
We answered the globe answered the Nazi genocide of the Jews and the gypsies and the different sexual orientations. They answered that, with this tribunal. They sought after persons indicted for war crimes. There in Europe later on with Bosnia and Croatia and Herzegovina and Kosovo, they went after persons indicted for war crimes there, and did a tribunal at the Hague. Let's see that doing.
Right.
Assad has definitely done that. And that would also give the globe an opportunity to say, okay, hey, here's what's up. Here's how we deal with this.
Yeah, they need to they got to do something, right? They can't let it go unchecked.
Yeah, and Nikki Haley, sorry, Ambassador Nikki Haley. I meant no disrespect. is turning out to be one of my favorite human beings. I'm like super impressed by that impressive American person. She is like one extremely well spoken, and she, is so educated, and she's like so prepared, and she's masterfully handling the Security Council meetings. She's not backing away. She's not shying, and I'd like to see her have the opportunity to like stand before the council with him in chains, and be like, there you go. Not everything has to end with us bombing. I was reading something that Chuck Ziegenfuss said earlier today, and he was like, when you're saying that we should go take care of somebody, remember that when you say we're sending someone to go take care of them, it's not you. Like,
right. Yeah, I saw his post. It was pretty good.
Yeah, and it's like you're not sending yourself to go do this. You're sending somebody else to go into harm's way to do this, so that you can feel good about someone else going and doing it. And
and I don't want to. I want to just put something out real quick. I don't want to make this a false flag or conspiracy theory thing, but I want something. There's something that should be considered. One, we don't have. When I understand, there's no proof, and there's actually some people saying that it wouldn't even benefit Assad to have done this, but there's no proof he did this. One a correlation that I see is several years ago, Boko Haram and all that. Where there was an incident where, remember the video? I don't remember the company put the video together about how this terrorist group in Africa was terrorizing all these people and killing kids and all this stuff. And what we saw was overnight it went crazy. Remember, on social media, millions of followers and singers and rap artists and actors and everybody, and they all went crazy, and everyone tweeted it and reposted it so many times that the momentum went crazy. I remember watching that. I remember the numbers were going through the roof and were jumping at insane and almost impossible rates, and it got so much momentum where the entire country, left, right, and indifferent, mostly left, was like, we got to send troops to war. We ended up sending 120 SF guys in there. But all of a sudden, we went from anti-war everything to we got to go to war. And then this company that was behind it had a very flashy website, had dozens and dozens of employees. I went and checked them out. I was doing some work for someone at the time, and we were very interested in this because it had to do with narrative and message manipulation. And then all of a sudden, the guy who founded this company ended up, naked on the street corner in San Diego, masturbating, and got written off as a Looney Tune, put in a straitjacket, and then the whole thing died. So what reason I bring all that up is the correlation is this. Now I truly believe that was a test run to see how social media and narrative manipulation could be used to push an agenda or a topic. Now we see this. Not saying he did or didn't do it, but now we have everyone that would be the most anti-war kind of folks that would never want to, that are always the first ones to be the peaceniks, are now calling for everyone to go to the mainstream media. Is like, if you don't go to war, if you don't bomb Assad, if you don't do something, you're with Putin. Like I'm seeing the same thing happen again, where the faction of this country that would be the first ones always to walk in a peace march, and put guns and put flowers in the end of barrels, are the ones calling for us to deploy and attack and bomb. It's just got to make me wonder. And again, I don't mean to sound conspiracy theorist, but it is almost an exact scenario of what we saw several years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I see the angle, and there's no doubt, that, and there's always the war hawk out there, right? But this, we're talking about Aleppo, right?
Right.
A few minutes ago, and everyone's hashtag Aleppo. Like, what about don't forget Aleppo? And there's probably 50 hashtags, about Aleppo, and something needs to be done. The comment in there in one of the chats I was looking at, in the Facebook chat, Gaddafi got the message, so many years ago. I think it was Reagan, if I'm correct, sent some planes over to Libya.
Yeah.
Tracked down a tent where Gaddafi's family were chilling out in the desert, and dropped some ordnance on them and took out some family members. Right?
Yeah, and somehow, ironically, after France wouldn't let us fly over them, we accidentally dropped one in the French embassy. Just saying. It happens, right?
Accidentally.
It just happens that of all places, those B-111s had to fly from England all the way around France, adding several hours of flight time. I guess the guy was so tired, he let one rip off and just a little bit too late, and it hit the French embassy. But,
Like there's something about like bombs and embassies, meeting at inopportune times.
Yeah.
I want to say like the Chinese embassy was it Kosovo got clipped?
I somewhat remember that. Yeah.
Or Bosnia, right?
Kind of like a warning shot.
They had an issue with us. They just found one of our spy planes or something like that, or they captured something of ours, and then accidentally like a bomb that was meant for the other side of the street.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, it's.
And the thing is, like, we try and sell that, like, oh, my bad. We're like, I remember like Colin Powell and Schwarzkopf giving like videos, back during Desert Storm, like, and this is how we hit the air shaft.
It's like, yeah, and you watched it, right?
And then
Go right down the air
man,
shaft,
we
take a
dropped
left.
the bomb on your embassy.
Yeah, take a left down the hallway, go down the stairs, and go in the right, knock on the door, and then blow up. Yeah, and then it's like, oh, my bad. Yeah, just it hit a building that was occupying 5 blocks, and we somehow hit it. So, man, Joed's showing no love in the chat.
Hey, like even he recognizes,
Yeah.
the people from France.
Yeah, that's right. But
during times of war have not been known to be as strong backed as other European countries.
Hey, speaking of overseas and Africa, I'd like to hit on another topic if we can jump. Yeah, so I just want to highlight, this is something that's been going on for a while to a lot of people. And, if you're listening or watching the show, or somebody that, sounds like this may be them, or they may be a victim of this, you need to let them know. But there's a lot of, we talked about Facebook at the start of the show and everything like that. We know there's scam artists out there. You hear all this stuff in the media now. I mean, I work in the cybersecurity industry, so this is my everyday, but it's, you hear about phishing, and I don't mean like casting a line like Toby was doing, but phishing where someone tries to fake you out, spam and Trojans and all this cybersecurity hacking kind of stuff all the time. Well, one of the things it does is people can represent themselves, right? You go on Facebook, you make a profile. You go on Twitter, you go on Instagram, and they set up these accounts and make themselves look. I've been taken advantage of. Toby, probably, I know many of our friends have. But for those of us that were in the military, that have some pictures out there on the open source web, people take those, they build a fake profile, a persona, and they go after and target people that could be easily taken advantage of, manipulated, whether they're older people or people that are in a weak spot in their life or whatever. This is still going on. It's been happening to me since I got back from Afghanistan in 2007, and happening to a lot of other friends. If you or know of anyone that is talking to someone who apparently is a soldier, that is divorced, usually widowed, has a kid, usually a daughter, and they're deployed somewhere on some super secret mission that they can't tell you about, but they need money because they can't get home, or they need money for this or to treat their cancer, and the Army's so mean it won't do it, then it's fake. You need to report that. Google IC3 database. It is an FBI run database. You can report those internet crimes. There are things happening with that, but there are people still to this day, competent, professional people that are, lonely, that are at a weak time in their life, that are whatever they're going through, that are being taken advantage of and being ripped off, and having, emotional stress and heartbreaks or whatever else. And they're using pictures of like Toby or myself, and they're building these profiles, and they're coming up with these sob stories, and they are out there completely taking advantage of people left and right. You need to report that. And if you know anyone that you think sounds like something, maybe they're telling you about this online relationship they have, and it sounds something like that profile I just mentioned or that persona, you need to let them know that it's probably not real. Because I guarantee if anyone is deployed, whether it's a government civilian or not a contractor, but a government civilian or a military member They do not need money for anything. They don't. They don't need money. They don't need an Xbox. They don't even need foot powder. We're well past those days of the supply chain not catching up with us. So I just want to kind of put that out there. I guess you could say a PSA, Toby.
Yeah, no, we're always good for a good PSA. In fact, like think our PSAs are just better than our rants sometimes. No, this is something that it's frustrating because people it's a different type of identity theft, right? Like you're not stealing my money, but you're stealing my identity to swindle, to snake oil your way into someone else's pocketbook, and it's a deprived way of robbery, right? It's a deprived thing to take advantage of someone and do it that way. Like you said, this isn't the first ball game that it's happened to friends of ours, to us personally. I'm frustrated that they never take the really good pictures of me. So I mean, you're a better looking guy than I am, and you have a lot more pictures out there. So they have more to choose from, but all kidding aside, it's one of those things that it's despicable. It's something that, this is a crime that we're learning more about because of social media. This is one of those things, like we were saying earlier, that this is becoming a global issue because the internet doesn't know borders. That's why it's called the World Wide Web. And as you were saying, cybersecurity is a national issue as well as an international issue. And these crimes, we got agencies like the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the United States, the Interpol, that get involved in these things because a lot of times, like the whole catfishing thing isn't necessarily just local. It's it's an international crime, and I think that they're on their way in a good direction to cut it down. But it's sad because there's people that are out there thinking that they're doing something really good and helping someone that really needs it, and it's not true.
Right. Or they're getting their hopes up for a relationship that is not possible.
Yeah. You and I are both married. It's not going to happen.
Happily married with alive wives and kids and everything else. Yeah. So it's I get messages. I mean, I still get them today. Where, someone's accusing me of taking advantage of their mom, or they think I'm taking advantage of them if it's them. And it's every once in a while, my wife and I will go on and search for my name, and you can do this too. Go search on Facebook, search for your name, and look through and see if one of your photos pops up. Especially if you've been a serving military member, that seems to be who they target because they know how to play on the heartstrings. Like I say, you're widowed, you have a daughter, you're a single dad, you're in the military serving your country. They play all the right cards to build a story. And, just go search your name and see. You'd be surprised what may pop up. And they're going to use current things in the news to build that persona. They're not going to say you're in Kosovo. No one knows what the hell Kosovo is anymore, but they'll say you're in Libya or Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan because that's where things are happening. So, yeah. But, it's the things. And Toby, to kind of end it on a positive note as we get winding down, you were out doing some great stuff this weekend, weren't you? You were out there, as you always do with Veteran Outdoors. They're out there doing phenomenal stuff for our vets, real people.
There was a lot of different layers to this adventure. But I got to tell you that, one, first and foremost, I have just the most amazing circle of friends. The richness that I enjoy, the wealth that I enjoy due to friendship and brotherhood, can never be robbed from me. It can never be taken. And, I got to go do one of the greatest Texas adventures that can be done. Something that is hard to do in terms of, one, being allowed to do it, and two, ability to do it. being a BC boy from Northern Canada, it was no issue for me. But I got to see some of the most beautiful creation that there is out there, and did it with some guys that, there was some beautiful moments aside from the scenery, and it was fantastic. And shout out to the crew, Joe Esparza, Cody Hurt, Brad Strip Matter, a lot of the guys from MCO, Veteran Outdoors, Travis Cox, who's going to be married here shortly in November.
He was in Chatterler. He may still be in. I don't know if he is or not.
And some of the guys that we had a young man. There was a Force Recon Marine out there that a Scout Marine, not Force, but a Recon Marine. That was a survivor of this lone survivor of his team due to a pretty severe fight and IED debt. There's just some great stuff in terms of getting guys together and loving on each other and celebrating, a milestone in one of our friends' lives and one of the guys' lives in terms of Travis. And, the neat thing is when you grow up and you grow wiser, instead of, going to Vegas and doing stupid, crazy bachelor trips, if you will, if you have good brothers, you go find a place where you can seek fellowship out in the middle of nowhere and challenge yourself, face a little adversity in terms of emotion and get through it. And, that's one of the things that Veteran Outdoors is about. And that's why I'm about it. That's why I'm in it. That's why I do it. And that's why Brad, Cody, Joe, Travis, the team, that's we're in it for the big game, We're in it for the big game. And I got to be a canoe Uber for my main man and workout partner, Chris Biggs. So
there you go. No, you bring up a couple good points there. One is that that's a big part of healing, right? That's what we've talked about it many times. It's not the drugs that the VA sends you. It's not all the other stuff that guys deal with. I mean, we see it through the work that Robo does, that Chad does with My Next Warrior Foundation, and we know about ourselves. But a big part of when you go through the hell of combat and everything that goes along with that, the loss of friends, the death and destruction of innocent human beings that you don't know but still are punished with death or dismemberment when they had nothing to do with it, and everything else that goes along with the horrors of war. Getting together with those that can relate, talking through it, and all that kind of stuff is all part of the healing process. It's why the guys that I went to Afghanistan with get together. We get together at least once a year, actually multiple times a year. It's usually around the same kind of stuff. It has to do with hunting or being outdoors or our families or camping. It's all part of that rehab process. And, Vegas isn't bad. You and I will probably be finding our way back there again pretty soon with our good brother, Matt.
Yeah, for a good thing, though. Yeah, not for a bachelor thing, for an amazing military veteran support thing. I guess operation we can't tell yet.
Yeah. So, but no, still, but getting out like that is key, and I'm glad you brought that up. As we get older, like I say, you kind of get some of that out of your system. What I found for me, Toby, I don't know about you, is that I've gotten older. I find myself getting more sentimental. I used to be that, hard rock guy that didn't cry at anything, didn't do that, whatever. And now, man, it doesn't even take Old Yeller. I mean, and sometimes I'm choking back something. I'm like, why is this happening? But I've just in reflection, I think it has to do with because of the stuff we've seen and done, and mostly seen and been part of. We realize how precious life is. I think that's why. I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist, but
no. Old Yeller used to be the measuring stick on if you could control your emotions. I think a good question is now going to be what is our generation's Old Yeller? What is the movie that replaces that? That's the meter, the metric for whether or not you can contain yourself emotionally.
I don't know, man.
We'll save that for another day. We'll let someone try and answer that. But just to kind of caveat what you said there, it always reminds me of that speech that then General, now Secretary Mattis made in reference to post-traumatic stress, and he believes that not only is there post-traumatic stress, there's post-traumatic growth. And obviously that lens is what we look through. That lens is colored. It has this filter, this combat filter on it now, this traumatic filter from what has been witnessed and experienced, and that shapes and colors how we see the world. But it's not all bad. Like the warrior monk said, as old Chaos says, there's growth involved in that, and we should embrace that growth and be reflective of that growth, because that's what makes us better people. This doesn't define us. It doesn't make us less of a person because we went through this. In fact, we're going to grow from this, and we're going to be better people because we experienced this. And that's why we should stop looking at veterans as victims. And he goes, that's a wonderful speech.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to end my thought series on that.
Yeah. No Greater Love is in there as the movie. Maybe that would be the current standard. I'll also offer one more, Taking Chance. That one will get you, right?
Taking Chance, like we don't think that was. I don't think that it got the accolades it deserved.
No.
I mean, I guess it was because it was Kevin Bacon, but that one will get you. Yeah. That one will get you. Yeah. But we got we've had a great show. Looks like we're knocking on an hour. Looks like we made it through without any technical issues. It's good to have you back, Troy, since I'm so Bush League.
That's all right, man. That's all right. It's good. We just got to get you set up with some of the right tech down there in the Southern studio. We need a couple more sponsors to help fund that.
We need but maybe Facebook was involved in that thing last week. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? And after today,
it was a Facebook only issue. Every platform was solid. Just saying.
I mean, he was on a hill today. Maybe they've started change. Maybe they're starting to change some of their ways after being called out. But
I was waiting on the great senator from Texas to bring up and defend me. But
Diamond and Silk and the Stu and the Nun show. Do you target the Stu and the Nun?
That would have been. One's got 1.2 million.
I would have lost my mind if he would have said that.
He's like, one's got 1.2 million and one can't seem to get over 500. What's up there, Mr. Zuckerberg?
How much do you hate them? But great show. And we got some great stuff in store as always. We got some great stuff coming up in May and stuff in April. So we've got some returning guests we're working on. Some very popular returning guests and some new ones. So,
And also, I'm not sure when it's going down, but I look forward to it. I'm going to be promoting and doing a spot on a Spanish channel out of Mallorca, Spain, Super Yacht Radio. I'll be a guest on their morning show. So
nice.
Looking forward to that, which means I got to be up at recording at some crazy hour.
Are you having to do it in Spanish, or are you get to do it in English?
I'm going to do it in English. It's an international show, so they do things in multilingually. But I've agreed to doing it as long as it's in English, because my Spanish is not so bueno.
Yeah. Oh man, you're not living up to the stereotype down there in Tejas, but so good, dude. That's awesome. That is great news, and I'm sure we'll be sharing those links to that and everything when all that gets solidified, and we'll be putting that up here on the Stu and the Nun show. So until then, join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern here on Stu and the Nun. Find us all of our links on stewandthenun.com, the Twitch, Periscope, YouTube, Facebook, Spreaker. And, of course, you can subscribe in iTunes. So, with all that, Toby, thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining me tonight. And I'm glad I could make it, too. And we could thank you to all of our guests and all the chat and everyone that could come in. If we didn't welcome you, we definitely were noticing you. We just didn't get a chance to say anything. So, all right. And you're getting digged on being Canadian. So, nice one, Mark.
It's okay.
The guy from north of the border talking to the folks south of the border. But all right, everyone, you have a good night. Stu and the Nun show. Check it out, stewandthenun.com. Like the page. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your people you don't even like to let them all know. And we'll see you all next week. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Stu and the Nun Radio. We hope you enjoy your time with us because we have enjoyed sharing our time with you. Be sure to check out stewandthenun.com in addition to asking us questions and interacting with us on our Facebook page and Twitter. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern here on Spreaker and Facebook Live. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Warrior Media Solutions, WhoHammer.com, Veteran Outdoors, Graybeard Publishing, and Mighty Oaks Warrior Foundation. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. Thank you again, and have a good night.